Hello, my name is Jakleen Al-Dalal'a. I am a PhD student in architecture at the University of Sheffield, and I'll be presenting for the next 10 minutes a paper which is part of my research project, which is called Rethinking Public Participation in Planning in Amman. In this paper, I only focus on public participation that takes part outside the formalized planning structure. I called for more attention to the practice of so-called invented bottom-up participation played in a political authoritarian regime such as Jordan. I used three case studies from Jordan to unsettle some assumptions arguably embedded in notions of participation. Yet, given the coexisting or even collaboration status of these grassroots initiatives and the reality of the state's force in controlling any right stock activities proves challenging. To label them as passive sites of subaltern resistance or part of governmental apparatus of acquiescences, or even actively confronting the state is inadequate. To capture the full picture, I will situate the framework that I am going to discuss in their political context and particularly highlight the moment of the post-ideological Arab Spring. This moment of transition in 2011 generated many new possibilities, particularly opening the way for grassroots initiatives to emerge. It held the potential of the social non-movements relying on collective action through the fragmented but similar activities of non-collective actors who lacks formal organization to become the base for action that could create the form of collective action. Today's new young civil society organizations and initiatives are experimenting with new forms of approaches focusing on smaller scale, situated activities that allow for alternative political ideas to emerge within less hierarchical structures, sustaining the activities through local income and away from international funding. This form of activities allowed me to look outside a binary lens of opposition, where the grassroots organizations are neither insurgent nor passive. Building on these two notions of tactics, I argue to look at these approaches as tactics used by the grassroots to negotiate power and participation within a new liberal top-down authority. The conceptualization of tactics here is not one of revolt or rebel, but one of creativity, witty, and opportunistic form of resistance that take advantage of any available opportunity. According to Desitur, the practice of everyday life extends the political realm beyond the formal structures. These everyday modes of action do not fit in adequately within the claims of insurgent planning and are not explicitly counter-hegemonic, working against the structure of the powerful regime, or hiding their activities from the state to avoid detection or disruption. They are no part of lifelong process of quiet encroachment. Instead, they are often unplanned, temporary, overt, and fluid modes of action that the grassroots inhabit to fulfill their needs within restrictive political environments actively. We can understand them following these tours as the creative subversions of the rational order operating on a principle of temporality by seizing fleeting opportunities that arise from time to time. Although I seek, through my research, to foreground as tactics the innumerable minor everyday practices of participation that resist and challenge the discursive regime imposed by the dominant strategies of the state. In this presentation, I present case studies of tactics that are controlled by the state and may not lead to direct transformative outcomes as planned, but instead they unsettle the right to the city framework by creating alternatives to the formal modes of space production and organization. The first case study is Jebel Amman Public Park. The project was formed by a multidisciplinary team consisting of people from different backgrounds and experiences, varying from practitioners, social mobilizers, designers, educators, researchers, and residents from the neighborhood. The project had a strong focus on questioning the relationship and power imbalances that often underpin the production of public spaces in Amman and recognizing the local knowledge of the community members. Through their work, the group faced many bureaucratic strictures that affected negatively their work within the community in terms of building trust. However, the group used the power they have, which is a well-known official that could help them with the paperwork and the many delays. Although arrangements such as these are frequently described as corruption or as nepotism, in this context they are better understood as tactics that are shaping the participation in Amman. Informal arrangements and personal relationships enabled power to be negotiated and maintained outside the realm of the law. Another tactic used by the same group was in the case when the municipality didn't show full approval on involving the Sudanese community in the participation and the design of the park. For the state, the Sudanese are not as important as the Syrians, where they still get great fundings. Nevertheless, the group managed privately with the community when to present themselves as the main co-designers or co-producers and when not, which was based on the attendance of Greater Amman municipality officers. The second project is Mahalli initiative. Mahalli in English means local. A small group of activists and artists formed Mahalli Initiative. Their objective was to construct a political critique of the production of capitalist-built environment in Jabal Webde and to help and preserve its local heritage and histories. Jabal Webde is one of the oldest areas in Amman city. To do so, the group took the opportunity of opening of another international franchise in the area. When they collectively started to map the stories of the local old businesses in the area and tried to highlight their relationship with the place. They used to meet, draw, listen, and imagine the area of Jabal Webde along with the communities living there for many years. In order to stop the government from giving all the permissions for contractors and international businesses to open, they formed small groups to talk to people around the front doors of these international franchise and show them the story of the Jabal and the stories of the locals and the local businesses and the many meanings they create together in terms of their relationship with the area. Not illegal nor passive, they try to support the local businesses by encouraging users to meet with them and co-create a map of memory and care. The last case study is Badr, in English Initiate. Badr started with one urban activist who realized the poor condition of streets between Zarqa and Amman city. This initiative was born out of frustration with the poor condition of these streets, which caused damage to their cars and pose a safety hazard for pedestrians. The municipality's slow response to the many requests and complaints led the founder of the initiative to identify potholes and other road damages and then work to fix them using a combination of do-it-yourself techniques and donated materials. They tried tactically critiquing and requesting improvements for the streets by doing the municipality job as a volunteer work. The founder used to post and talk on different social media channels about the poor conditions of the roads and how to fix them. Although these tactics sound transformative, however, in authoritarian hostile political environments, the state can easily control any social change talk. Next, I will briefly present how the previous tactics were confronted with governmental strategies. For example, in the first case study, the municipality assigned the park to be managed and further developed by the school administration that is next to the park, instead of communities around the park that helped in co-design and co-produce. Although the initiative started from some educators from this school, they didn't aim to transfer the management of the park development to the school administration. This sidelined the communities around the park and rendered the school administration as representing the municipality in producing and managing the public space. In the same fashion, the municipality, when noticing the movement in Jabal Webde in the next case, they enacted a temporary law that banned any new permits in the area, while assigning an architecture and design office to develop a new plan of preservation in the area, by identifying in a very traditional way the heritage spots that deserve to be preserved. However, this meant the new buildings that are already under construction can resume their work, as this law won't affect what is already under construction. In the third case, and when the municipality noticed the dense of work done by plenty of volunteers, they asked the founder of the initiative to better work with private investors, that the municipality already do a lot of work with them, so they can help him with the resources needed. The municipality claimed that the material used by the volunteers is not sustainable and may cause further damage for the cause in the future. That's why they advised the founder of Badr to get help by private investors. Today, these grassroots initiatives don't don't perceive their work as creating a transformative change as they hoped for. The technologies imposed by the state is slowly killing the momentum of their work. Interestingly, their tactics may have not led to a transformative outcome, but I claim here that their practices are reorienting the right to the city framework, where they become an alternative source of informal rights. Although forced to contend with the power of the state, these grassroots did not go strictly passive. But but they keep playing an active role by producing new debates and meanings in the production of urban space through mobilizing the everyday life social practices of the wider community, even after they are no more active or as hoped so. In many ways, and through various approaches, the residents around these sites are claiming sort of support and ownership to these spaces. For example, in the first case study, the Sudanese communities around the park are trying to frequently clean the park and plan small gatherings even before the official opening of the park by the municipality and the school. In the second case, the residents still support the local businesses by either post on their front windows the vision of the initiative to show solidarity. Also, the residents still trying to convince the users of international franchise to use the local cafes and businesses by showcasing the traditions and stories of the locals. Finally, in the third case, many people still post, create videos, write, and map the work that was done by the volunteers and the initiative. Many of them started to take the founder paths by repairing their own streets around their neighborhoods in different cities while using donated local materials and resources. Although the government imposed strategies as tool of deterrence and to control the right to the city talks, many residents are mobilized by these short moments and they return to these initiatives to extend the participation talk and rights and not to the state. They seek advice and mobilization from these grassroots. Also, they build on their work to achieve the hope transformative change. The everyday life forms of the practice described above by both the grassroots initiatives and mobilized residents tend to avoid direct association with formal political meaning. However, they try to be more creative in asking for their political rights. These opportunistic, manipulative, agile, self-organized, indefinite space in the one hand expand the understanding of invented spaces of participation to allow a new conception of participation that functions within relational, dynamic, and mobile agencies. On the other hand, it reorients the right to the city framework, where the grassroots organizations become an alternative source of informal rights. Thank you for listening.